Okay, good evening colleagues, welcome and everyone in the audience, welcome to this Executive Board meeting. Special welcome to Mr Butcher, who has decided to film this August board. I hope you have entertainment value tonight. Not sure whether you will or not. First item on the agenda is Code of Conduct, declarations of interest. Please declare any pecuniary interest if you have any. And Mr Dave will advise on the appropriate course of action. Number 2 is minutes of the previous board meeting. And I just take the tree record, please, or is there any matter of accuracy? No, thank you. Executive board issues, forward plan, we've had a copy of them. I think it's straightforward forward plan. The reasons that they've been either moved back or moved to a different date. Is everyone okay with the forward plan? Thank you. Agenda item 4 is Capital Programme Monitoring Report 2014-15, Quarter 2. Councillor Bowden, please.
Yes, thank you, Chair. This is the report on the Capital Programme as at the end of Quarter 2, i.e. the end of September. As members will be aware, we do have a very ambitious capital programme here at the Council, in excess of £700 million. The majority of that is around investor save schemes, particularly our loans with registered social landlords. In terms of progress against budget, at this stage we're about 35% of the forecast Quarter 2 spend. And that's actually slightly better than previous years where it's typically been 25 to 30%. And really the major difference or variance from budget is around the progress of some of our loan schemes with registered providers. In terms of by directorate, those are shown in paragraph 3.5 in terms of spend against budget. Generally pretty good in terms of directorate controlled capital spends. The big discrepancy here is around capitalisation of redundancy and pension costs, which obviously won't happen until the year end, assuming that we get the direction of application approval for capitalisation. In terms of schemes, there has been a fairly significant sort of variation of around £35 million in terms of the overall budget. And that's mostly down to rephasing of programme and projects to latter years. And the benefit we get in terms of revenue financing for the capital is already built into our shortfall for budget for next year. But it does give an illustration of how keeping a close review of the capital programme and making sure that we're making provisions in the right years is of value to us. In terms of the various appendices to the report, they show the detailed project monitoring for the project. They also show the principal changes to the capital programme and also cover those programmes, those projects that should not yet be programmed. As is required, Appendix 6 shows the variations to the programme that are in excess of £100,000. And as I said, those are really around rephasing into latter years. Or else projects that haven't yet started. So in terms of the recommendations, Chair, they're set out in paragraph 16.1 and the Executive Board has recommended to approve the amendments to the programme and obviously note the monitoring and progress of the capital programme and to approve the new scheme shown in I think it was Appendix 6, did I say?
Yeah.
Yeah, in the new scheme in Appendix 6. Sorry, no, Appendix 7 is. Sorry, I apologise.
And obviously, not as many as 7.
No, and obviously to approve the variations of the programme, in particular the removal of some of those projects which are set out in Appendix 4.
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor Bowden. I think it's an excellent report, good progress in the monitoring, and obviously the main difference is the variations of rephrasing. I think it's best for us all to understand that there's nothing that we deliver on the capital side that we don't cater for within the envelope of our revenue side. We don't just willy-nilly go up with capital schemes. It's all controlled and monitored and rephrased or whatever. So as you can see from this report, It's a very detailed report with lots of information, and like I said, I think it's an excellent report, and the main difference is the variations that we face and that goes on. But it's something that we actually monitor regularly, our busters and Linton, and it's something that as long as we're in the envelope of the outline budget proposals, then that's what we do. Have we got any other comments or questions, please? I've got a seconder to the recommendation. Councillor Patel, thank you. It's been moved and seconded. We accept the recommendations. All those in favour, please show. Thank you, that's unanimous. Agenda item 5, budget monitoring Q2 update. Councillor Bowden, please.
Thank you, Chair. Hopefully my voice is a bit hold better this time. This is the final report that the Council won, which basically is monitoring our progress in terms of the overall revenue budget as against the medium-term financial plan which full Council agreed back in March. It also provides a Q2 update as at the end of September. In terms of the Council's overall budget, the budget we set last year included in excess of £16 million of the savings. And we basically put those savings together at a time when we'd already earned in excess of £70 million of the savings, and really as part of a programme of continued austerity which has had a significant impact on the Council's revenue budget. It's really important, obviously, in terms of monitoring our progress, because some of the savings proposals that are in that budget were quite challenging. In one of the directorates in particular, it involved a significant transformation programme, and so it's important that we maintain focus on delivery of the savings that were put forward last year. In terms of the report itself, it's not uncommon to show a predicted overspend at this time of the year. We tend to sort of rein that in as we go through the year, particularly where we find savings by other means in order to compensate for under-delivery of specific proposals. I think this year there's a slight actual increase coming from Q1 to Q2. I think that's a recognition of, in particular, some of the increased demand in certain service areas of the Council. But also, as I said, in relation to retirement regeneration, about some of the challenging nature of service redesign and transformation programmes there. For the first time in the report, in Appendix A, I've included a summary of progress against the savings which are included in the current budget. Not as a means of criticising colleagues at all, but just to show the particular areas where we're having difficulty delivering the savings that we've put forward. And I think that's important in terms of focusing effort on reducing ongoing budget pressures, particularly as we head into a new budget cycle. So in terms of the report itself, the current position is that we forecast an overspend of around £1.67 million for the year. And obviously I know that officers and colleagues will be working to reduce that projected overspend as we move through the rest of this financial year. In terms of the recommendations, Chair, just they're set out in paragraph 10.1, the Executive Board is recommended to note the forecast outturn as at the end of Q2 and to note progress in terms of delivery of our committee savings. And equally, to note the continued commitment by portfolio holders and executive directors to ensure that we deliver a balanced outturn for the end of the year. At this stage, in terms of dealing with any projected overspend, there's obviously the requirement to use NTFP reserve if necessary. And so the final recommendation is to agree in principle to a drawdown of funding from that reserve in order to offer a temporary reversal of some of the savings that were agreed and will be delivered during the current year.
Okay, thank you for that, Ross. Again, it just shows how hard and difficult work that has to go on to maintain the savings that we've had imposed on us. I think the figures are mind-boggling sometimes when you talk about 70 million and 16 million and 14.5 million. It's actually mind-boggling, and it just shows the constant vigilance and hard work that goes on maintaining a balanced budget as much as we can in these very, very difficult, austere times. Have we got any other comments or questions? I'll second to the recommendation, please. Councillor Keane seconded. All those in favour, please show. Okay, that's unanimous. Thank you for that. Corporate resources and assignments, decisions and contracting process. Councillor Bowden, again, please.
Thank you, Chair. I've had enough of drinking, so things are
Have a
going
go.
I probably do need to have a go. I think one of my highlights on the executive board was once presenting a paper on the procurement of janitorial supplies on the basis that it cost more than £250,000.
Janitorial supplies.
Janitorial supplies.
What's that in? What's that in?
Toilet rolls.
Toilet rolls.
Yeah. And cleaning products. Back in October 2013, the executive board agreed to a trial of a new process regarding non-key decisions and contract procurement process within the council. Essentially recognising that it wasn't really the role of the executive board to consider the supply of toilet rolls, and in fact there were quite a number of decisions made within the council with significant contract value, but they remained around the internal workings of the authority and didn't have a significant impact on local communities and the operation of the council. What was agreed back in October 2013 was a trial whereby the strategic procurement panel would consider contract decisions of that sort. Thank you very much. Contract decisions of that sort. So in section 3.3 of the report, it details there the 6 contract decisions that were considered by the strategic procurement panel under that trial. And obviously the report summarises the contract agreements that were made in terms of values and the start date and contract length. I think what this trial illustrates is actually the volume of such contract decisions isn't actually that large. The strategic procurement panel, through the processes they have, has dealt with those adequately and successfully, and that it's therefore worth adopting this process on a permanent basis moving forward. So in terms of recommendations, Chair, they're set out in paragraph 9.1, and obviously we note the nature and number of those kind of non-key decisions, agree obviously the success of the trial period, and to approve the adoption of the non-key decision process going forward.
Thank you, Councillor Bowden. Basically what the report is trying to do is reduce the time taken to award these contracts for non-key decisions. I mean, if you need the toilet roll, you need the toilet roll, don't you? You do. So, but I think it's an important process we've gone through. We did do a trial like you indicated, and it shows that we can actually award these contracts a lot faster if they're non-key decisions on certain items. So, anyone wants to comment on a question, please? I've got a seconder to this recommendation. Come on, someone must need a toilet roll. Councillor Keane. Thank you. All those in favour, please show. That's unanimous. Thank you for that. Performance report, quarter 2. Councillor Patel, please.
Thank you, Chair. This report, recommendation set out at the end of the report, and it's basically asking you to note the performance of the council, and particularly each portfolio holder's directorates, and the portfolio holders to go back to their directorates to address those issues which are amber or red. For the benefit of the public, we do publish this performance report so that we can be as transparent as possible and showing the key issues that we think are important that we're measuring. Some really good work's been going on in the court, and I just want to highlight a few things. So, for example, with regard to supporting the local economy, it's great to see that who started work on the £8.5 million investment in the business incubator. Staff sickness is always an issue that the public seem to watch out for, especially in our sector. And it's good to see that overall the staff sickness has reduced by 7% compared to the previous 12 months. Freedom of information requests are another issue that is regularly highlighted in the media, and in the first 2 quarters of this year we've had 467 freedom of information requests. It's still a lot, and it costs us a heck of a lot of money to process and gather all that information together. But we are learning all the different types of requests that come in, and we are constantly improving our publication scheme. That's where we actually try and publish a lot of the data that we think people might ask about already on the website. So of those 467 requests that we had, around 16% of those were able to point people straight through to the publication scheme, which is, hopefully over time we'll get more and more people going in that way. In terms of a couple of other points I'd just like to highlight, we've made a big play as an administration to promote apprenticeships, and of the council's first block of apprentices that came in, which ran from January 2013 to July 2014, we took on 26 apprentices. Of those 26, 18 are still working for the council, and 4 have got jobs outside the council or gone to university. So if there was an advert for investing in young people and investing in apprenticeships, that figure says it all. And on that basis, Chair, I'd just like to propose recommendations as written.
Thank you, Councillor Patel. Again, I think it's an excellent report, got more greens than reds or ambers. Staff sickness is a conundrum for us, because obviously there's lots and lots of pressure on our staff in these very austere times, and to actually have a reduction in sickness is something that's very commendable, because there's more and more pressure coming on, less and less staff, obviously as we downsize and have to produce the balanced budget. The FOIs are always a difficult situation for me, because it costs us a lot of money. We could do a lot with that money that we spend on FOIs on delivering services. And unfortunately, some people or organisations or whatever they are insist on putting FOIs in, and it's costing this taxpayers and this council a lot of money. And I just wish that people would think before they actually put FOIs in, because as Councillor Patel says, most of the information is available anyway, and they can access it online. The apprentices, I wholeheartedly agree, obviously. Excellent story, excellent news. Have we got any other comments or questions, please? We've got a second to the report, Councillor Bowden. Sorry. All those in favour, please show. Thank you. Agenda item 8, strategic risk report. Councillor Patel, please.
Thank you, Chair. Again, this is another document which we shouldn't be afraid to publish. And this risk register shows that as a council, as an administration, and as an officer corps, we're aware of the issues that might crop up and cause the council, put the council at risk in terms of its reputation, but also in terms of the services that we provide the public. It's really important that we are as transparent as possible so that the public realise the challenges we face. There is one new risk that we've put back on the register, and that's around safeguarding of vulnerable adults and children. That had been removed from the register as our confidence in our safeguarding processes were improving. But at the request of the Family and Wellbeing Director, it's been put back on the register, purely because if a safeguarding incident were to occur, then the impact would be very significant, both on the individual, but also on other stakeholders as well. And as long as we keep risks like that on the register and make sure that we keep our eye on the ball, so there's issues around data protection as well as on the register. And there's also an issue about all the reorganisation that we're doing as a local authority. But by publishing this document again, the public can see what challenges we face. I don't think it's a criticism of the council if various risks are red. It just shows that we realise they're red and we are going to take mitigating steps. We can't eliminate all the reds. With all the best will in the world, we cannot stop. If somebody is so minded, we cannot stop a vulnerable person from being put at risk. But what we can do is try to make that risk as small as possible. And on that basis, Chair, proposed recommendation 8.1.
Okay, thank you for that. I'd like to say I agree with you. It's a good positive report. What should give comfort to our communities is that if a risk occurs, then we've got a strategy in place to deal with that. So it's an important document to give confidence to our communities that we have got strategies in place for any situation that occurs. And I agree with you, it's an excellent report and should give comfort to lots of our residents. Have we got comments or questions, members? Have we got a seconder? Councillor Gill, had a hand up first. All those in favour, please show. Thank you, that's unanimous. Item 9, homeless strategy. Councillor Keane, please.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'm very proud to move the homeless strategy that takes us from this year right up to 2018. I think it's a very important strategy in the difficult and austere times that we find ourselves in at the moment, and certainly one that seeks to fulfil our duties to our priorities to protecting the vulnerable in the town. I think there's a simple vision there that's spelled out in paragraph 3.1, which there is no room for homelessness in Warrington. And I think this strategy really shows the strong multi-agency partnership work that's taking place in leading up to agreement of this strategy tonight. It really has been something that's been taken seriously in terms of our development of the Commission, which I think was Warrington's second major commission, followed our very successful first Skills Commission. We went through a variety of issues with consultees and those directly affected by the issues, and came up with a series of recommendations that covered 8 of them under 3.2. Now, the strategy took those on, and you can see throughout paragraph 4 it forms 4 very, very strong, very clear priorities. But then, as we move on to section 5, we can see that this isn't just a strategy, but it comes with a very clear and effective action plan to ensure that we deliver the strategy. Section 6 takes us on to how the monitoring of this strategy and the action plan and the implementation will take place. And I think that that kind of process, multi-agency partnership, and this kind of process, when you actually read the feeling within the strategy and what we hope to achieve in the outcome, should give all members real confidence that this is something we're going to deliver with full commitment between now and 2018. With that, Chair, I'll move the recommendations in paragraph 12. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Keane. Yeah, I agree. Excellent document, this, an important strategy, and it is protecting our most vulnerable citizens. I think it's very ambitious, and it obviously needs the ownership of our partners to deliver it, and I think that's what we are good at in Warrington. Got an excellent partnership working process, and we're quite confident that we will have no homelessness in Warrington in 2018, but it does require a lot of partnership working. And again, it's well led by you in this council, and all our partners are taking ownership of the strategy. And it's an ambition, but I'm sure it will be delivered. Have you got any other comments or questions, please, Councillor Patel?
Thank you, Chair. I just want to reiterate what you said, because I read this strategy, and what I thought was really reassuring was that apart from just tackling the issue of supporting people who are facing homelessness or at risk of being made homeless. There's lots of preventative work going on there as well in terms of giving people training opportunities, working with the voluntary sector in terms of the welfare reform challenges that the community faces. So for me, it's great that we've got an action plan for people, like I say, who are homeless, but it's even better that we're doing more and more to stop people falling into that predicament in that first place. So, like I say, I thought it was a really good piece of work by the officers and by our partners as well.
Okay, thank you. Would you like to second it, Councillor? Yeah, okay, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favour, please show. Agenda item 10, Warrington Borough Council Tenancy Strategy. Councillor Keane, please.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Another interesting document that seeks to deliver our key corporate priorities, particularly of protecting the most vulnerable again. And colleagues might initially ask when do you see the document, you know, why does Warrington Borough Council now have a tenancy strategy? Because our ability to give tenancies in it is in fact very, very limited these days since our stock transferred to a registered provider. And really what this strategy does is it sets out our statement of intent to the registered providers that they have to give due regard to when drawing up their own tenancy strategies. And the clear message that kind of comes through as you read through the strategy is, what are we trying to do by producing this? We're trying to give people security, we're trying to build the local economy with housing provision, we're trying to protect the most vulnerable. But it gives a clear difference from the council's tenancy strategy than perhaps you'll find in the private sector, where you've got the insecurity of short-term licences or 6-month tenancies that then a tenant would hope would be renewed after the 6 months, but isn't always the case. You know, we can see in paragraph 4.5 that tenancy policies will be clear and transparent and published, that they'll be very open so that our residents can see what their agreement is. You know, we can see further on in the paragraph when we talk about introductory tenancies for a period of a year, but followed by 5-year minimum tenancy agreements following that period. So you know, it gives real securities to individuals, to couples, to families in Warrington. So, as I say, this is something that we publish in the hope that our partners and the registered providers will give due regard to. In my experience, they already do, and they do exist to give that security and quality to tenants who are our residents in Warrington. So, something of a document to draw matters together and to give that advice out there. And again, very proud to move the recommendation in paragraph 10.
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor Keane. I agree with your comments with regard to this. As part of the Localism Act, that we're duty bound to actually have a housing strategy, which is good. And it's good that we have some excellent RSLs in the town that actually will hopefully and will definitely take advantage of our strategy to deliver their outcomes with their tenants and residents. I agree also that I think the next stage, the next step is to try and get something done with our private landlords, which would again be essential, because whether we like it or not, more people are renting nowadays than ever before, and there needs to be some safety net underneath these people who rent rather than just all the right to buy or those who purchase the properties. So again, an excellent strategy. Hopefully we can expand it to become our private sector landlords as well. Okay, have we got any comments? Questions? Councillor Patel?
Just thinking on something you said, Chair, about the private sector, I appreciate this document is for the registered landlord sector. And we all like tenants who have that type of accommodation and we know how the RSLs work. In relation to the private sector, I look forward to seeing the next piece of this jigsaw. This links in very well to your homelessness strategy. And I think the next piece of the jigsaw in terms of helping people in their accommodation in Warrington is that private sector strategy, because under the current coalition government rules, the local housing allowance levels have dropped. So I think it's now sat at the bottom third on the local housing market levels. So invariably it's going to force people to the lower end of quality of accommodation in the private sector, and there is a temptation there then for landlords not to invest in their property. And I think we've all had stories where people have lived in properties where, for example, the boilers don't work in winter or the banisters are falling apart and things like that. So the sooner we can get that piece of work done and start improving the quality of accommodation for people living in the private sector, the better.
Totally agree, because what you tend to get also is a lot of fuel problems in these private tenants, these private sectors, basically because the solid walls, a lot of the properties, the terrace properties, so we really need to actually try to underpin and have safeguards in place for a lot of our residents that actually rent in private. Okay, I need to second that please, Councillor Patel. Thank you. So moved and seconded, all those in favour please show. Okay, thank you, that's unanimous. Agenda item 11, Housing Improvement Project, 379 Willick Road. Councillor Keane, please.
Yes, thank you, Chair, and thank you for those comments. I think it's a very positive journey that we're on in housing in Warrington. I'm at the end of it, but it certainly is one that's well supported by the Council and its Executive Board. I think this paper, Chair, it's an improvement project for some properties that we did keep when we transferred our housing stock to a registered provider. And the reason we did keep these particular properties were to help us with emergency cases where bed and breakfast accommodation would have been required otherwise. So these are used, I suppose, for our, most vulnerable in a very short-term vulnerable time. The paper really covers a number of improvements, very similar to improvements we've just mentioned. We will be going down a line here and replacing a roof, insulating external walls, replacing the windows, replacing a central heating system, improving ventilation and replacement of communal doors. So it really is quite a big project that we're undertaking, but for some very good reasons. It's also very timely that we undertake this project. Colleagues, particularly ward councillors, will note that the Golden Gates Housing Trust are taking a vast amount of improvements on nearby properties. These are properties that almost neighbour them. And whilst we have the opportunity to save money essentially by working with Golden Gates through economies of scale, we've chosen to take the opportunity to get this work done at this early stage. So with the note that it will have some kind of major improvements to some of our most vulnerable tenants at their most vulnerable time, I will move the recommendation in paragraph 12.
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor Keane. Councillor Hannon.
Yes, Chairman, welcome this report from Councillor Keane. As you know, the Older Green project, which is probably 50% through now, gives a great improvement to the landscape of the old flats, and there was a concern that the Willick Road flats was not going to be part of the programme, but thankfully this is now included in the programme. And I have to say the scheme that was set up there some years ago, there was a lot of public interest, public concern, because the two blocks of flats are about vulnerable individuals. For whatever reason, things have gone wrong with them in their life, and to give them the start back into society. And the residents of the area welcomed the scheme. They first thought they could have put an argument of the NIMBY approach to having that type of scheme near them, but it's been welcomed, it's been a huge success, and it's given individuals the confidence to rehabilitate, to go on their own back in life and have their own property. So to have this improved alongside all that is very much welcome, Chair.
Thank you for that. Are you seconding?
Yes, yes.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favour, please show. That's unanimous. Thank you for that. Agenda item 12, Active Warrington Strategy, Annual Report. Councillor Kay Cannon, please.
Yes, Chair, this is to seek approval from the Executive Board to extend the strategy from 2016 to 2020 and agree a reporting process which will see the report brought back to the Executive Board yearly. The Active Warrington Strategy was launched in May 2012 to galvanise a partnership between stakeholders supporting and delivering sport and physical activity in Warrington, in line with governance support and recommendations from Sport England, and to contribute towards the tackling of health inequalities across the borough. As you can see in the report, 3.5, everybody what was involved. It was involving neighbourhoods, building capacity, coaches, volunteers, leaders and instructors, inclusion and intergeneration activity, events, facilities, children and young people. And in the annual report, there's a whole host of partners there, what was brought together along with this strategy. In 2013-14, the partnership successfully attracted 250,000 in external funding. 50% of our sports clubs have been engaged in helping to tackle inactivity. The partnership has identified and engaged with over 1,000 coaches, leaders and officials, and almost doubled the number of volunteers trained and engaged in delivery since 2013. We are to develop our engagement with the residents that include the development of a website through which we hope to engage individuals digitally, allowing the partnership to promote activities, engage wider audiences, share key health messages and explain how people can volunteer. That's the way forward with a lot of these young people these days, the digital programme, so we're hoping to build a website in that. The recommendations, Chair, is approve the extension of the strategy to 2016 to 2020 and agree an annual report to be presented back to the Executive Board and move them recommendations, Chair.
Okay, thank you for that, Kate. Again, excellent strategy, something I'm involved with the Walpole Foundation, it was one of your main partners. I feel that this is some form of investor save programme, because by keeping our residents fit and active, it will have a huge benefit in the future and cost savings on our health agenda, and it's getting people active into a lifestyle that prevents them from falling or being ill or feeling ill. And I think it's an excellent strategy and something that Warrington has embraced, and all our partners are delivering it, and we are one of the leading lights. So I'm sure a lot of us still are very active, depending on whatever age we are. I'm not looking at you, but no, it's excellent. I mean, all walks of life are active in Warrington now. I know that for the fact that some people in the foundation that we help are 80 odd years old, you know, they're dancing, they're active, they're fit, and they're vibrant, and they feel better and they feel healthier. And a healthier, active person is a happier person that makes our communities feel that better and that active. So all in favour of such a programme and a strategy, which is excellent. Have we got any other comments?
Yeah.
Councillor Wright?
Yeah, just make a comment, Chair. Second, what you just said about being healthy, just like to mention that they are the Active Warrington strategy is complementary other strategies that we're doing, such as the Healthy Wages strategy, the cardiovascular disease action plan, and the health and wellbeing strategy. So it's all linked together, and I welcome this report.
Thank you. Good comments then, Councillor Wright. Councillor Patel, do you want to say anything?
I was just going to ask it how it links in with the strategies, but Councillor Wright's probably mentioned it. The other point I wanted to make as well is just the success of Livewire since they've set themselves up and working relatively independently. I mean, they seem to be working really well, especially with the local NHS services, and I only know that because my parents sit at home watching Asian TV channels and the like, and they're playing cricket. But thanks to their GP, they've been encouraged to go to Warford Hub for their Tai Chi and other type of classes. And actually, the funny thing is that apart from physical wealth, physical health, for older people, what it has done is actually got them out of the house and engaged with members of the community, sector society, which actually, some people from ethnic minority backgrounds don't. They just are quite happy, especially the older population, are happy in our own communities, and they've got out, they've made friends. So there's something also, there is something here about physical health, but actually there's a lot of really good positive mental health impact that's going on from getting people out and about, especially for a lot of people where social isolation, I think, has been reported in the media as being this weekend being a real big issue for older people.
Bowden, then comments, excellent comments. Did you second it, Councillor? No. Okay.
We've also got the active fly strategy that's been this evening as well.
Although I like an active fly, I'm going to pass it if we get it. Okay, if we moved and seconded, all those in favour, please show. Okay, thank you, that's unanimous. Agenda item 13, establishment of an educational improvement executive board task group. Terms of reference, Councillor Carter, please.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Yeah, this is to establish a task group to help with school improvement, obviously. And if you look back to Councillor Patel's corporate plan performance report, if you look at the two reds, one is the achievement gap between pupils eligible for free school meals and their peers at Key Stage 2, and also the achievement gap between pupils eligible for free school meals and their peers at Key Stage 4, and you can see that those gaps are increasing. So the terms of reference are quite straightforward. The task group will be, membership will be 411, and we've got the members, I'll be leading that. And so I ask the Exec Board to consider and approve the membership and the terms of reference.
Okay. Thank you for that. I'd like to say, excellent report, this an excellent move that we actually set up this task group. As you can see from the report by Councillor Patel, if we do find that some of our performances are underachieving, and we set up a certain task group like what Councillor Carter's talking about, to actually improve those outputs. And hopefully next time round, Councillor Patel's report will have an improvement in such activities. Okay, any comments or questions, please? We've got a seconder, please. Councillor Kay Hannon, seconded. All those in favour, please show. Thank you, that's unanimous. Agenda item 14, contract provision of an agency support service for disabled children and young people. Councillor Carter, please.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, this is just to advise on the outcome of the tender valuation.
Part 2.
Which in part 2. There are 47 children and young people who access this service, and 2 providers at the moment which have not been quite responsive enough. And so, although it looks quite complex, the report, it's about children with very specialised needs. There's standard, but there's also very complex. It can involve health needs as well. So, I would ask you to, on recommendation 10.1, to support the recommendation.
Okay, and the details will be part 2, obviously.
Yeah.
Okay, any comments or questions, members? And then we've got a second, please. The recommendation. Councillor Kay Hannon. All those in favour, please show. Again, that's unanimous. Thank you for that. Agenda item 15. Councillor Diller, please comment on this, please.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to move deferment on this item, Chair. I think there is some further work that we need officers to look at with this report.
Okay. Any comments on that?
If there is further work to be done, that would be the correct course of action to defer it to a following meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Day. Okay. The item is deferred. Is that okay, members?
Yes.
That's the work to be done. Thank you. Can we move part 2, please?
Second.
Thank you.